So Dan, let's just start here. The yield pressure, 20-year hitting over 5%, but I think the real thing that we're looking at right now is the 10-year at about 4.75%, putting a lot of pressure on tech on top of a rising dollar. How do tech stocks move higher with this setup?
Yeah, I think there's two things playing out. I mean, one, fundamentally, in terms of AI, CapEx, use cases, what we're seeing are strong on the enterprise as well as on the consumer side. That's actually better than expected. And I think we'll see that over the next month in terms of earnings. Now, clearly, look, we've gone through this the last few years. In terms of the 10-year bond risk off, we're going to have these moments. But our view is these are the opportunities to own the winners. And as the fundamental cases play through, look, Frank, I only think we're halfway through this tech bull market.
All right, we're only halfway through. I do want to talk to you about Palantir. That's one of your top 10 picks. Under pressure once again. We've seen, after it was the best performing stock in the S&P last year, we continue to see a sell-off and the stock be under pressure. Are you concerned about the valuation like so many other people say they are? They just believe the valuation's too high, and it would be very difficult for the company to live up to the lofty valuation.
Yeah, I think if you just stick with valuation, you've missed every transformational tech name in the last 20 years. I think Palantir, I continue to view as that's the next Oracle, the next Salesforce. When I look at AI revolution, and let's talk about numbers, $2 trillion of AI CapEx next 3 years. And I think where Corp and Palantir position, as it plays out, we're going to have these sort of white knuckle periods. But ultimately, I think this could be a 3-digit stock as it plays out. But these are the times that you ultimately look at the winners and how to own them.
All right. So you and I have talked about this before, the rise in the dollar. I'm looking at a 1-week chart of the dollar. It's up about 1.5%. These are tremendous moves when it comes to a currency. We did get a spike after the jobs report, but still, it was still moving higher last week overall. I know you're bullish on tech. You're always bullish, just to be fair. You gave us your top 10. Out of these top 10, which do you see as being the most likely to be impacted by this rise in the dollar due to their revenues coming from overseas?
Sure, Microsoft, Oracle, probably 1 and 2 in terms of ones that are exposed. I mean, Apple clearly will also have some headwind. Now, look, I think the street is already factoring in some of that in terms of estimates. I don't think this becomes that dramatic if, ultimately, if we actually start to see this curtail. But it just comes down to, Frank, I think we sit here a month from now, it's a much different picture because of the fundamental picture right now that plays out in tech, as this actually is seeing strength being led by the AI revolution.
Okay. But we have seen a lot of weakness in tech, Dan. Let's just be fair. We were just showing a chart from Mike Santoli's column over the weekend showing the current bull market and the average bull market. If you look at the average bull market, this bull market has a lot more to go, but it seems like tech, it doesn't seem like it, just due to the concentration, tech has to be the engine moving it forward. So if we go to the next Fed meeting coming up later this month and the Fed continues to be hawkish, do you see that continuing to impact the tech trade? Because that seems to be the inflection point, even for the tech trade, even though we call these stocks defensive just because of their bulletproof, cash holdings and everything else.
Yeah, look, and that's also why you have a diversified view in terms of whether it's an Oracle, whether it's Microsoft, and some of the more high growth names like a Palantir, Tesla, and others. Look, it's going to be a headwind, but our playbook the last few years has been you use these opportunities to own the winners. And that's why I get the bears are going to come out. Right now, the bond market, the 10-year is going to ultimately dominate, but we're only halfway through tech bull market. And that's why I still believe tech stocks are up 25% this year. We look back at this as an opportunity, not time to hit the elevator and ultimately hit the exit.
2024 has been a whirlwind year for the semiconductor industry, marking dramatic shifts in fortune driven by the rise of artificial intelligence. But as we stand on the brink of 2025, the big question is, what's next? Who are the real victors and which companies are poised to emerge on top as AI's furious momentum begins to settle? Will Nvidia still hold the reign, or will it even go further beyond? Strap in as we unravel a story of thrilling highs and challenging lows. Welcome back to Investocracy.
So it's not just about fundamentals, it's also about sentiment. Sentiment's a big driver in the market. Which one of these earnings reports do you think we need to watch to look at sentiment? Which one's going to tell us really where the tech trade is as far as the investor sense of their confidence in the bull market going forward, their confidence in this AI trade?
Yeah, I think Microsoft, because I think as long with Nvidia, those are probably the best in terms of barometers for what we're seeing with AI, and ultimately that's a stock that's also been under pressure. And then ultimately you look at Apple, because Apple right now, whether it's Zuck, whether it's some of the downgrades, a lot of pressure in terms of showing what we're going to see, specifically coming out of China in terms of demand.
You mentioned Zuck. We do have a soundbite we want to play from Zuck on the Joe Rogan podcast, talking about Apple. We're going to play it. I want to get your take.
Great.
just because they've been so off their game in terms of not really releasing many innovative things, that eventually, I mean, the good news about the tech industry is it's just super dynamic and things are constantly getting invented. And I think companies, if you just don't do a good job for like 10 years, eventually you're just going to get beat by someone.
All right, your take, a kind of aggressive take from Mark Zuckerberg. Ever since he started those MMA classes, it seems like he's just a different guy. He's got a chain on, it's a different thing. But in all seriousness, do you think he actually has a point about Apple and their innovation?
Look, it's an MMA battle with Cook and Apple. And because it comes down to 30% in terms of, with the commission, what they're taking. And we're seeing this sort of Game of Thrones play out between Meta, Apple, and I think across the rest of tech because of where we're going into it. It's frustration from Meta's perspective. But look, for Apple, as we've talked about, this is the year they have to ultimately not just innovate, but show the consumer AI revolution does go through Apple. And I think Zuckerberg recognized that.
Analysts like Dan Ives and Needham's N. Quinn Bolton noted that semiconductor companies affiliated with AI initiatives soared, leaving those tied to more traditional sectors in the shadows. While the S&P 500 flaunted an impressive 23% return, AI-centric stocks saw their worth skyrocket by an average of 147%. But before going on with the video, are you into cryptocurrency? If so, check out our second channel, Investocracy Crypto. We bring you breaking news, expert analysis, and the latest trends in the fast-moving world of digital assets. Whether you're a seasoned crypto investor or just curious about the future of finance, we've got something for you. Click the link in the description to subscribe to Investocracy Crypto now. Don't miss out and stay ahead of the game. Now, let's get back to the video.
But what I believe right now, this AI revolution, it's hitting its next phase. And I think this is just still the start of a fourth industrial revolution.
All right, still the start, but you always say it's 9 o'clock. It's got to be 9:30.
No, I actually said now it's 9:30 to 10 p.m. in the AI party. That goes to 4 a.m.
All right, so you have a number of upgrades in the space, specifically in the software space when it comes to AI. One of them is Snowflake. The other one's actually Elastic. We've been fortunate enough to have the CEO on the show. Kind of a broad-based play. They do cloud, they do security as well. Why these two names?
Look, I think, and we've talked about a lot here on the show, now the second derivative, the software piece of AI is here. I think in 2025, that's going to be the key. You look at Elastic, Snowflake, names like MongoDB, they're the ones now that follow names like Palantir in terms of the software, the use cases. I believe the software AI age is now here. 2025, that's going to be front and center. That's why we upgrade those names.
All right, so both of those names have recently had earnings, actually. We're going to show the charts. Big jump. Snowflake's up over 25% since earnings. Elastic's up over 20% since earnings. What's going to push them even higher? I mean, they've had big spikes post-earnings. What else is going to happen that's going to be another catalyst?
That's just the appetizer in terms of where I believe these stocks are going. Because now the consumption model, what's happening across enterprise AI, obviously it starts with Godfather of AI, Jensen, NVIDIA. But now you look at the consumption piece, these LLM models, what you're going to start to see, I believe earnings and overall growth is being underestimated potentially by 15-20% over the next few years. That's why you look at names like Snowflake, Elastic, Mongo. It all starts, obviously, with Messi of AI, Palantir, but this software phase is here, and it's just the beginning.
All right. So how does the idea of bond yields play a part of this? I want to ask you, probably back in 2022, we were talking a lot about bond yields. We're talking about the stronger dollar. In fact, right now, the dollar's even higher than it was back in June of 2022 when Microsoft warned, when Salesforce warned. How did those things play a factor in this tech trade?
Well, look, on currency, clearly, that's been, that could be a headwind. I think the difference now is that a lot of that's factored into guidance. Now, we got to see if that continues in terms of dollar strength. But we're in a much different situation today relative to, I think, what we're seeing from a demand perspective. That tightening environment that really actually was a big hurdle in terms of software, we're seeing the opposite of it because of where this AI revolution plays. So I think even though you could have some currency headwinds, it is not getting in the way of what I believe is we're going to be talking about NASDAQ 20,000. And I believe in the next 2 years, NASDAQ 25,000 is something that we'll be talking about.
So again, your picks for us today are Snowflake and Elastic. I also want to talk about deregulation, the idea of some changes when it comes to the FTC and other areas that are regulators. Does that help either one of these names, or are they neutral to that?
Well, I think it's actually bullish because in our view with Khan going to be out, FTC, this is going to be significant in terms of deal making. I think these are companies that are going to go on the offensive. And then on the other hand, you're just going to have massive M&A from strategic as well as on the financial M&A side. And that's why software has underperformed. But if you look in 2025, I think a year from now, we sit here and we're like, software is fire. Because this is just the start of what I view 9:30, 10 p.m. is the AI revolution. We're talking about $2 trillion of AI capex. Now software, they were on the velvet ropes behind Nvidia, Microsoft, the hyperscalers. Software is like, let us into the party. Party's here.
The party's here. Okay. I'm going to get to our mystery chart. It was Palantir. So Palantir having a huge year so far, and you just raised your price target on Palantir. So the street's at about $37. You're at $75. This stock's had a big run up. What's going to continue to move this higher?
Look, and the haters will continue to hate, as we know, in terms of the bears on Palantir. They are still underestimating when it comes to the software, the use cases. There's no product out there that matches what I believe what Corp and the team have done at AIP. So I think the enterprise piece, we're talking about something that could ultimately be billions of revenue. So when you actually look at what this means, $75, be like, oh, it's expensive. I look out 3-4 years from now, could Palantir be the next Oracle, the next Salesforce, the next SAP? That's what I think we're talking about. And that's why, look, the bears will come out of hibernation, talk about valuation, just to start what I view for the Messi of AI.
Companies like Nvidia Corp, Broadcom Inc., and Marvell Technology Inc. are tapping into strong growth areas of XPUs, an essential cornerstone of the AI surge. Ives and Bolton forecast a potential new surge for AI-driven companies, and especially Nvidia, that is poised to reign supreme once again in 2025. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, I think Jensen laid out the strategic vision for the coming years. When we look at robotics, autonomous, I mean, I believe ultimately those are going to be some of the biggest use cases of AI. And I think what you saw from NVIDIA last night is they're not just sort of going to be a provider. They're going to play a huge role in this sort of vision. And obviously, Tesla on the autonomous side continues to be front and center. I think this is the next step. I think this is a snapshot of the future. And you look at it incrementally. You go out the next few years, I think Street's underestimating growth by 25, 30%, which is why I think not just $4 trillion, you could be looking at $5 trillion market cap.
Underestimating growth by 30%. What is it? Is it robotics? What's being underestimated, so to speak, in terms of the growth for this company?
I think one, it's Blackwell, just overall from a demand perspective. We think 15-to-1 demand to supply in terms of what we see. I think when you look at robotics and autonomous, given the market opportunity, that could ultimately be 15-20% of what I view as disruptive technology. I mean, that could be an incremental 20-25% just to the top line over the next, call it 2-3 years. I think that to me was the sort of watershed moment last night. It's Jensen laying out. NVIDIA, it's not just about Blackwell chips, the new oil gold. It's about where this is all going. And we believe autonomous and robotics, that's a huge part of the fourth industrial revolution.
Looking ahead, the semiconductor saga invites investors to partake in a dynamic race poised for transformation. With the current landscape set to evolve, stocks like Allegro Microsystems offer not only a refuge from the AI frenzy, but also a calculated opportunity for growth as market fundamentals recover. Not to mention tech giants like Nvidia breaking records left and right and going further beyond their perceived limit. Are you ready to take a calculated leap into the future of semiconductors? We'd love to hear your thoughts and strategies. Drop a comment and let the discussion begin. And finally, if you would like to know what companies like Nvidia have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.